generational trauma and passing trauma on. I think moms quietly wonder this, lost moms of like, I'm so sad, I'm grieving so much. Is this going to affect my baby in my womb? And how am I going to cope with that? And I felt that when I was carrying Sia, and like, man, she's heard me cry and sob more in my lifetime than anyone has ever heard. How is she going to be okay? Is she going to be okay? I don't know. And there's a level of guilt you feel from that you can't give this happy container and experience when they're in your womb, and you hear about epigenetics and like all these trauma things. And for me personally, I witnessed a moment where I think some of my conditions shaped her as she came out. So for the first 4 to 6 weeks, and this is kind of maps exactly why like it took me that long to bond with her, but every day, 4 a.m., she'd wake up crying, wailing, just inconsolable. What some may think it's like kind of like witching hour, but I was kind of like, this is a weird time to have a witching hour. And I tried everything. I'd swaddle her, I'd feed her, I nurse her, I change her, I sing songs. Nothing soothed her. And when I looked at her, it almost looked like she was fighting. Like she was wailing and screaming, kind of like just fighting and fussing. And I was like, okay, you're definitely a fierce baby. Like you're feisty and that's okay, but you're definitely fighting. Then it wasn't until after 4 weeks, and it was enough that I had modern pediatrics. So I'm like messaging my pediatrician, like, I'm noticing these things. And it's consistent. I'm noticing it's every day at 4 a.m. No one had an idea. We kind of all just guessed, like potentially from all of her laying down through the night and maybe like the gas bubbles or something from the food residual that's making her uncomfortable. But then it finally clicked after 1 month of her being here. It hit me that when she was in my womb, every single day at 4 a.m., I woke up and I was crying and I would sob every single day. And I remember it was 4 a.m. because someone had reached out to me and was like, hey, in Chinese medicine, they believe like different hours are attributed to different organs. And it turned out, I forget which organ it is, but 4 a.m. happens to be the grief cycle. And like,
oh, wow.
It connects to an organ in your body that's like trying to detox or do something to function. And it perfectly aligns that it's usually a body that's grieving. And that was me every day. And I realized, is she grieving? And does she think she has to grieve? And that broke my heart. And that made me feel like, holy crap, I just passed on trauma to my baby. Like I ruined her. And I did what a lot of people may have done, which is I went to Chat GPT and I was like, did I ruin my baby? And the beautiful
it was like,
thing,
great question. I'm so glad you asked. And then it gave you the answer.
the beautiful thing, and the reason I share this, because I think a lot of people hold their breaths and they don't want to talk about it because they are so scared. But I think there is a happy ending to this, but also it normalizes it. Chat said it's true that epigenetics happen and trauma can be passed on, but there's so much room for generational healing. And what you do from this moment onward really has a more significant impact than the 9 months that you had. So while she may have been conditioned, or maybe some of these did pour over to her, there's a lot that you can do now to tell her that she's safe and show her that she's safe. And I was like, thank God. Thank you, chat. Right on cue, 4 a.m., she was wailing and screaming and crying. And I knew that she did not need to be fed, changed, or anything. And I just held her. And I had a moment and I looked at her and I said, I am so sorry that you think this is the baseline of your life, that this is what safe is. This is not what safe is. It was never for you to carry this grief. And mommy loved you so much and loved your brother. And I know you know that. And it was really hard. And it was something that I have to go through, but it was never meant for you. Moving forward, you are safe, you are loved, and you are cared for here. You don't have to fight this grief anymore. Love is the baseline. Safety is the baseline. You don't need to fight. Like you are okay just being here. You don't need to do this anymore. And truly, she stopped. She stopped crying and moving on from that, she slept through 4 a.m. Like she never woke up
She
again.
felt your energy shift. Your energy shifted, and then she mirrored that.
And that was a very significant moment in my grief journey because as I'm saying these words to my baby that I would not have ever said any other way. Like, I'm apologizing to her and reassuring her that it's okay to move on now and that it's okay to let joy in. It's okay to feel safe and loved. It was as if I was speaking to my own grief and I was giving myself permission that it's okay to move on and it's okay to still love Lando, but it's okay to also love him through joy and not just through sorrow and grief and tears. And that's what I meant earlier when I said I really had to restructure my relationship with him and how I related to him so that I could make space for this baby and make space for even how I want to show up as a mother to this baby and my relationship with my own grief and myself. Um, and so that I share to really hopefully give hope to others that the things that you're worried about and you're thinking about, I have thought them too. And mine actually came out so obvious that it was a direct correlation and I was able to map that 4 a.m. moment. But there's a lot you can do. And that's exactly also why I wanted to induce because it feels like now I have a lot more control with the baby being here. There's a lot of opportunities for me to do things differently.